In this video, we're going to learn about properties of matter. Now, properties of matter can be divided into two main categories, chemical properties and physical properties. And to understand whether a property is chemical or physical, you have to ask yourself, is this a property that can be determined or measured without changing the identity of the substance? If the answer is no, then you have a chemical property. So, for example, methane or natural gas is something that's very flammable, and that's a chemical property because you only know that it's flammable when you change methane into something else. Burning methane gas requires oxygen and it produces carbon dioxide and water. You're changing the methane into something else. That's how we know this is a chemical property. On the other hand, wood is somewhat flammable. And we could also look into other things. For example, metals. Iron is somewhat easy to oxidize, and that's how it rusts. On the other hand, gold is something that is not easily oxidized, and that's why you never need to polish it. Um, but that ability to oxidize for either of them is an example of a chemical property. Also, there's heat of combustion. So if you measure how much energy is released when something burns, that's also a chemical property. If we look to the other side of the chart, we have physical properties. And physical properties, they don't require changing something into something else. So we have two main categories of physical properties, and they are intensive and extensive properties. Um, to understand the difference between those, we ask, does the property depend on how much of the substance there is? If the answer is yes, this is an extensive property. And so properties like mass and volume and weight, they depend on how much of a sample there is, and so they're categorized as extensive. If we look at the sample of Kool-Aid in a graduated cylinder, it has a volume of 25.6 milliliters. That's not a property of Kool-Aid in general, that's a property of this particular sample of Kool-Aid. If you had a little bit more, it would have more volume. If you had less, it would have less volume. Um, on the other hand, we have intensive properties, and they do not depend on the amount of a substance. So whether we have a little bit of water or a lot of water or the ocean, it will boil at 100 degrees Celsius or 212 degrees Fahrenheit. That, as well as density, as well as color, luster, which is how shiny something is, malleability, which is how easily it can be hit into a shape like metals can, ductility, the ability to be drawn into a wire, and then things like boiling and melting points, hardness that you learned about in planet Earth, and so on. These are all intensive properties because they don't depend on the amount of a substance. And that is all for properties of matter. Hope this video has helped. Feel free to leave any questions or comments in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.